Well, let's bring in our international affairs editor, Philip Turle. Philip, we've got a few things going on here. Overnight statement by the coup leaders saying that France collaborating with the toppled government and essentially trying to free the detained president. Distraction technique, what's going on there?
I think there are a couple of elements here. The first one is that we have a group of putschists who are trying to discredit the former elected government. And that is why they're saying what they're saying, because the big bone of contention here is France's role in Niger, particularly in the capital, Niamey, where there is a lot of contestation, as they say in French, a lot of ill feeling towards France, that France has never really given up being the controlling force in Niger, even though the country is independent. The former ruling colonial power still has a final word on what is going on. So the fact that the putschists are saying that the government that they're getting rid of has tried to get France to intervene to free Mohamed Bazoum is going to play in their favour. Second point is that France is not going to intervene militarily in Niger right now. It has to go through ECOWAS, because France can't intervene militarily without going through ECOWAS, because imagine the mess it would be if ECOWAS, which is also threatening to intervene militarily, did the same thing at the same time as France. It would create a terrible situation in the country. And the third point is that France is present in Niger as a dissuasive force for the fight against jihadist movements, but it's not there to fight against the governing powers in the country. There are 1,500 soldiers based in Niger. It's highly unlikely that France would want to intervene militarily and put the lives of those soldiers at risk by doing so.
It's also interesting geopolitically. So you have the EU, the US, you have ECOWAS, West African leaders, also talking about economic sanctions. Meanwhile, whilst this fairly soft language from the Kremlin, you have maybe an unofficial spokesperson, Yevgeny Prigozhin, saying that this is reportedly saying it's a triumph. And on the streets, we're seeing some of the protesters with Russian flags. What's going on there?
This is once again, I think, another attempt to break free from what many perceive as the role played by France in Niger. Principally, ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, is seen as like a puppet organisation that's under the control of France, and therefore all the sanctions that are being announced against Niger by ECOWAS are being seen by those who support the putschists of yet another attempt by France to take control of the situation in the country. So they say that Russia, and they see Russia as an independent force, a way of turning the page of the French colonialization within Niger, a way of making pastures new, if you like. And this is being played on by the Russians. Yevgeny Prigozhin has said that he welcomes this coup and that his military forces are ready to intervene to stabilize the situation in the country, but they won't do it for nothing. They need to be paid back with some kind of cash or goods. It's hard to see what they're going to get in Niger. Certainly there is oil, there is petroleum, there is uranium, but will that be enough for the rulers to seduce Yevgeny's forces into the country to help them prop up these putschists? That we don't know right now. But I think that's where this is all coming from.
Can I also get a brief sense from you about this region, this sort of central West Africa belt known as, well, in the Sahel, but known as the coup belt now? How many coups have gone on in recent years? Give us a sense of what this latest instability could cause.
Well, it's true that there has been an increase over the past few years of a number of coups in West Africa. If you look at the list since 1952, there have been 17 in Sudan, 11 in Burundi, 10 in Ghana, Burkina Faso and Sierra Leone, 9 in Guinea-Bissau, and 8 in Benin, Niger and Nigeria. So there have been many coups in Africa over the past 70 years. But more recently, if you look at the number of coups since 2017, there have been 17 worldwide. 16 of those coups were in Africa, only one was elsewhere, and that was in Myanmar. So there is a repetitive situation in Africa where coups are quite often the norm, if you like, particularly in West Africa. And over the last 3 years since the COVID crisis. There's only one attempted coup in 2020. There were more in 2021, 5 in all, including in Mali, and then 5 again in 2022. Only 2 of those were successful, and both of them were in the same country. That was Burkina Faso. So we have seen a gradual increase in the number of coups in West African countries over the last couple of years or so. That is something that the United Nations has underlined and blown the whistle on, saying that more needs to be done to stabilize those countries, to prevent coups and destabilizing forces which will undermine democracy.